Is from Peoria, Illinois. Welcome to the program.
Hello?
Peoria?
Yes.
You're on the air.
Yes. I was watching Anderson Cooper last night, and he is over in Iraq, over in Afghanistan, and he was talking to some troops who were covering the area around the border of Pakistan. They're up in the mountains and everything. And they said that they were responsible for, they had 4,500 to 5,000 troops responsible for covering 27,000 square miles of material, and 10, everybody called them, there's, what are you, we have states, I'm not sure what, but they have 10.
Are they called provinces or?
Yeah, Bakhtiya province.
Provinces.
Provinces to cover, right. And he was talking that they feel forgotten. They're out there all the time. They don't, they don't get to go back to the good bases in Iraq. They're out there all the time. It's tough. They're being fired on. And he said that when he went home on leave that everyone, all of his friends says, how's it going in Iraq? And it seems like nobody's really covering Afghanistan much anymore. And my two questions are, one, what could have been done if the United States had concentrated and stayed in Afghanistan and not pulled out too early? Maybe put a bunch of soldiers on the border and prevented Saddam Hussein prevented Osama bin Laden from getting away. And they were very concentrated at that time. They said there were about 20 or 30 at the very beginning, 20 to 30,000. And then when Osama got away, it's just proliferated everything.
Caller, thanks. Let's hear from our guest.
Yeah, I agree with the caller that there should have been more concentration on Afghanistan because the basic problem came from Afghanistan, where Al-Qaeda leadership was there and where the 9/11 attacks originated. Taliban by themselves were not involved in the international attacks. They are more confined to the local situation. But nevertheless, since they were the host of the Al-Qaeda, so they also became kind of responsible for that. So I think I agree with the caller that there should have been more concentration on Afghanistan. And I think Iraq came from nowhere. Agreed, Saddam Hussein was a highly unacceptable ruler of Iraq, but that was not the urgent issue to attack Iran and Iraq and to divert the whole resources from Afghanistan, which was really should have been the main core of concentration against international insurgency or terrorism.
That being said, we read there are maybe about 20,000 NATO troops in Afghanistan, and the commanders are looking for maybe 2,500 more. What difference would that number make, do you think, on the ground?
I personally think not much, because as I said before, this will give more reliance to the Karzai government. The Karzai government should learn to be on their own. They should learn to actually build their own army. Now quite a number of years have passed. They should concentrate more on developing their security arrangements on their own without external help. Of course, external help is needed to a certain extent, but then over-reliance is also a very dangerous concept, because if they start to rely on the US forces or NATO forces, then they'll never be able to develop their own institutions or capabilities or to solve their own tribal problems as such. So the important thing is that they should look within themselves in Afghanistan with external help, but more so they should build their own resources and then stand on their own feet, because ultimately the foreign forces are going to leave Afghanistan. They're not going to stay forever. This is a realization which the Karzai government must understand.
We go to Tulsa, Oklahoma now, looking at Afghanistan. Welcome.
Yes, sir. I feel that bin Laden drew first blood, and if they're going to hide him there, or he's going to hide there, we should do whatever it takes to find him.
Thanks for calling. Let's go to Euless, Texas now. You're on with Syed Hasnat of the Middle East Institute.
Thanks for taking my call on my favorite TV program. I have two questions. How much does the drug trade play into all this violence in Afghanistan? And if their aid money is not going to rebuild, where is it going? Into politicians' pockets?
Thanks. Let's take the drug question first, Mr. Hasnat, because we read that the opium production, the poppy production, is up by about 50%. Why is that, and what's happening to the money?
Yeah, because most of Afghanistan is controlled by the warlords or the tribal chiefs. And in order to win their support, I think this is the easiest way which the Kabul government found was just to ignore the growth of poppy. But then what happens is that if you have illegal money from narcotics, the money can go anywhere. It can go to the terrorists, it can go to the insurgents. And this is where the main problem arises, and this is where the main problems comes in, that how to control the security situation along with also controlling the local tribal chiefs and also controlling through them the growth of the poppy crop there and providing them alternatives. And yeah, this is correct that of course the money is not going to the people. Money is going to the tribal chiefs because that's the only way which the present Afghan structure is geared for, to distribute the money through someone, and that someone is the most corrupt tribe, happens to be the most corrupt tribal chief. And that is the problem which the Karzai government has to sort out in the near future.
What kind of alternative crops are there?
Afghanistan is a barren country. It's not an agriculture country to begin with. But there were alternatives which were provided in the past. For example, the farmers were encouraged to grow fruit trees. Also, the preservation of fruit factories, small factories were established in the past. Talking also of the Pakistan side of Afghanistan, which is not much different in its landscape and also weather conditions. So this was one experiment which the government did, and it was successful to a certain extent. The farmers are not going to get as much money as they get from illegal narcotic trades, but nevertheless, it's an honorable way for the farmers to have their livelihood.
Is the Afghan government or U.S. troops or NATO doing anything to get rid of the poppy plants like they once were?
Not seriously enough, because these poppy plants are controlled by the warlords, and at the present, Afghan government relies totally on the warlords for its support.
So was a local poppy farmer forced by the Taliban to grow the poppy?
No, not by the Taliban. In fact, it's the other way around. During the Taliban's rule, this is the one thing which the supporters of Taliban say, that during the Taliban rule, the poppy crop was controlled to a great extent, not totally, but to a great extent. So this is a new development which has come right now.
Thanks for explaining that. Portland, Maine, you're on with our guest, Mr. Hasnat, about Afghanistan. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
I was listening to NPR yesterday, and there was this report. I don't know who was it that was talking, but I think it's for BBC. And he said that U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan have this fund called discretionary fund that he used at his discretion. And that fund is bigger than the budget of the Afghanistan government. So how can we change the trend so that the Afghanistan government can take can be more involved with the affairs of Afghanistan?
Thanks.
Yeah, this is the question, of course, which we were discussing before, that the Afghan government has to rely on its own resources. And I think the U.S. government and the NATO forces, they have to tell the Afghan government that they are not there for an indefinite period of time, and there has to be some timetable given to the Afghan government to set their house in order. Because otherwise, this thing is going to go on forever, and the Afghan problem will not be solved.
What can President Karzai do? Because here's a Washington Post story from yesterday. They talk all about Afghanistan, and they say the Afghan experiment is marked by progress and disillusionment. They take you around the country and how local merchants and people in the schools are feeling and that kind of thing. But they point out that many people today express dismay with the government of President Hamid Karzai to the point where some feel conditions in the country were ripe for fundamentalism. What can Karzai do to help build those institutions?
Yeah, first of all, to induct the people at large, especially the Pashtun tribes, which of course get their recruitments for the Taliban to begin with. There has to be a system, there has to be a way of government. They do have a parliament, we know the elections were held, the Jirga was elected, but there has to be more ways of involving the people in decision making, and there has to be more activity showing that Karzai government is government of their own, of the people, elected by the Afghan people at large, and most of all that they are not dependent on the foreign forces or the foreign countries, and otherwise they genuinely represent the people of Afghanistan. I think this perception is very important, and that perception, once that is created amongst the people of Afghanistan, then we can hope for the betterment.